I release and let go. I accept what is mine. I can have it, what I want, and let Spirit direct the flow. Life is good. Life is fun. Life is great. This song is done.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday to you. Always great to see all of you this morning. Oh, what beautiful faces. I'll just take that in for a minute. Well, I came across a story, and I was reading some in the scripture in the Bible, and I was reading about the kingdom of heaven. And in Revelations, one of the things that they talk about is the idea that the kingdom of heaven is paved with streets of gold. And I thought, well, that's an interesting image, isn't it? So I started really thinking about and looking at what that really meant from a metaphysical perspective. I know there are some people who literally believe that you go to a place and there are streets there and they're gold. I have a little different idea about that, because I'm under the in Unity, we have this understanding that heaven is not necessarily a place, but it is a level of energy, of consciousness. It is a state of being, you might say, in which we are truly aware of and in the presence of, and you might even say, of the presence of the divine. And so there's only one presence and one power in the universe is one of the primary things that we understand and teach in Unity. And so when we're in that place of the kingdom of heaven, we are aware of our connection with that amazing and powerful creative force, being, essence that is everywhere present, but is also everywhere present, including in each of us. And so when we think about this idea, this image, this idea of streets that are paved with gold, I begin to think about that from a place of, what is that saying about a level of awareness, a level of consciousness? And so I was looking at the idea of streets, and streets are basically avenues that we travel on, aren't they? They're places, they're ways that open up to us. You might say they're a path, right? And so if you have a path that's paved with gold, that sounds like a pretty neat thing, doesn't it? And so if your path, your way in life is paved with gold, we're talking about a spiritual path. And it's a path that is open to you in ways that will bless you and prosper you, that you perhaps don't even recognize or maybe even overlook at times, because oftentimes, what do we pave roads with? I mean, what do we usually pave streets with? Usually it's asphalt, sometimes it's dirt, sometimes it's sand, you know. It's not usually stuff that we would consider to be extremely valuable. But when you are working with this idea of the kingdom of heaven, what you'll find is that your path, your way, is paved with those things that are really, in many ways, valued, but perhaps sometimes overlooked. That we overlook a lot of times the amazing blessings that are available to us when we are following a spiritual path. When we're following a path of spiritual growth, of unfoldment, there are ways that are provided to us that give us amazing blessings that we sometimes can even just, it's like we take for granted. You're just walking along on these things. And so they come to you in ways that are oftentimes not necessarily some big flash, but they come to you in ways that are helping to give you a deeper, a richer experience of the beauty and the wonder and the abundance that's available to all of us in life. In John chapter 10, verse 10, Jesus said, "The thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." And I am absolutely convinced that was Jesus' primary mission, was to teach us and to show us how we can experience life in abundant ways. And not just in some place that we go when we die, but here and now. that heaven is a state of awareness of the presence of the divine in all aspects of our life. And when we're following that path, when we're on those streets, there's amazing insights and awareness that come to us. Now, gold metaphysically represents something that is of great value, but not necessarily of material value. One of the things that we look at in terms of gold is how gold is always symbolic of something that is clear and that is pure and that is true and that is something that we have a great value, that we place value in. And so when we're walking these paths, we're actually experiencing insights and awarenesses that are, you might say, boy, that's a golden idea. You ever heard that term? Well, that's what we're talking about here. The coin of the realm, Charles Fillmore says, are ideas, divine ideas. There are insights, ways that we can see and experience the world in a way that blesses us, perhaps even more than what we had seen in our everyday kind of walking streets that are paved with asphalt, or streets that are paved with dirt, or streets that are paved with sand. And so there are insights that will bring us into, you might say, a higher and a richer energy and vibration of the possibilities of good in our life. Charles Fillmore said, and teaches on Talks on Truth, he said, if the kingdom of heaven to which Jesus so often referred is a city with golden streets in the skies, he could easily have located it. But he didn't. He did nothing of the kind. On the contrary, he again and again gave illustrations to show his listeners that it is a desirable condition which can be brought about among them by the power of Spirit. He did not speak of it as situated anywhere in particular, or say that it could be attained quickly, for that matter. For instance, in Luke 13, he says, unto what is the kingdom of God like? And whereunto shall I liken it? It is like unto a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and cast into his garden, and it grew and became a tree, and the birds of the heaven lodged in the branches thereof. And again, it is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till it was all leavened. And so he's given an understanding, an idea here, that the kingdom of heaven is something that we tend to grow into. We tend to grow into a deeper and richer awareness of our connection with this amazing divine creative process that's always available to us. And we can experience that divine creative process in very personal ways. We can have a very deep, rich, heartfelt connection with God. And in doing so, we actually open ourselves up to hearing and seeing those inspirations and those things that really will bless us even more in all areas of life. And that'll take us in the directions that we want to go. That's the purpose of a street, isn't it? How many of you like to follow streets where it's not going in the way you want to go? I've done that a lot of times. Sometimes my GPS helps me with that. Sometimes it takes me on the right street, and sometimes it takes me on little detours, and I kind of go, where are you taking me? But eventually, it generally will say, wait a minute, turn around, go the other way. And sometimes we have that in our life. We have our God positioning system, right? And if we're willing to listen, sometimes we may find ourselves going around obstacles that we didn't know were there. We go around traffic. We go around 35. And hopefully, eventually, get to where we are experiencing life in a way that allows us to experience life from a higher perspective. So Jesus said, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. And I think about that in terms of the idea, we talk about in unity, the idea that we are intended to be prosperous. In fact, Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, kind of shocked the world when he wrote an amazing book called Prosperity. And he said, it is a sin to be poor. Now, how do you react when you hear that? It is a sin to be poor. Now, if you think about sin as what we oftentimes have been brought up to say, that means that we're somehow the worm of the dust. Anybody got that background? I know a few of us do, you know. That's not what it means. A sin basically means it's an old archery term. And if you take an arrow and you shoot it at a target, and you miss the target, if you miss the bullseye for that matter, that means you sinned. Now you can get that far away from the bullseye, but in archery that means that you sinned. And the interesting thing about it is it's a term to help you correct your aim. And so when you see, there's no such thing as a state of sin. It is just an action. And when you do something that is not in alignment with the truth of your unique and amazing and special divine nature, it just means that we're off the mark. That's what it means. And so it was a corrective term. So if you were that much off the mark to the right, that means that you sinned right. Doesn't mean you're a horrible person, that you're going to be punished forever. I'm sorry. Those of you who really attach to that, let it go. That's not the truth. The truth is, it is a way of helping you to understand that you can shift your awareness in such a way that you realign your awareness, not only of yourself, but of the divine and of the world, in such a way that you are in harmony with it and you are participating in this creative process that allows you to attract to you an even greater experience of love, of joy, of grace, of possibilities, and yes, of material good as well. You know, an interesting thing is I sometimes teach classes on prosperity, and one of the things I remember hearing someone in one of my classes saying, well, you know, and I've heard this a number of times from different people in spiritual circles, that, well, prosperity is more than money. And they're right. But one of the things that kind of thinking sets up is it kind of sets up in your subconscious mind that somehow you're not supposed to have money. But I got news for you. Prosperity is also not an absence of money. Right? And so it's not an absence of anything. It's when you need the money is there for you. Or if you need something other than the money is there for you. Or other things are there for you. So prosperity really is an experience of having an awareness of the creative possibilities that work in and through you to draw to you and attract to you those things that will allow you to experience and to express more of your own unique, powerful, beautiful, creative being. Who's up for that? Yeah. So let's talk about some ways that we can develop our awareness of what that means, to really walk on streets of gold, to develop a consciousness of abundance, to develop a consciousness of prosperity in life. First of all, one of the things that Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, taught is that prosperity is governed by the same laws that govern physical health. And the Fillmores they really thought that if they could maintain themselves in a prosperity consciousness and awareness of God as the source of their supply, prosperity could not fail to be theirs. And if money did not come in, it was not because God had somehow withheld it from them, because that's not what happens. It was only because they had not maintained a high enough consciousness in their supply of Him, and they redoubled their efforts in their prayer to shift, basically to change their energy, to change their consciousness. They felt that their supply depended on their maintaining this right consciousness, this consciousness of experiencing abundance as being present here and now. We have a tendency to think that prosperity is something that we hope and wish for, and then we do all kinds of things to try and get it to manifest in our lives, or we think that we have to actually work and slave for it. And this is, I think, erroneous belief also. Because the reality is, we have to send forth value into the world in order to experience that kind of energy and that kind of abundance, because it's like you're putting out the kind of energy that you want to attract. And if you're not putting out the energy of value into the world, then you are not really putting out the kind of energy that will then attract to you value also. Does that make sense? And so one of the challenges, though, that we sometimes have is that we sometimes don't value what we're putting out in the world. We have a tendency to discount our gifts. We have a tendency to discount who we are. We tend to think sometimes that the idea of being humble means that we have to somehow think of ourselves as less than. And I'm going to suggest to you that's arrogance. Because you're created in the image and after the likeness of the divine. And that's the truth of who you are. And to think anything less than that is arrogance. It's thinking that it's the ego consciousness that says that somehow that you have to be less than in order to feel worthy and deserving. It's insane. It's insane thinking. How's that ever going to help you to experience more of that abundance in life if you are somehow saying in your subconscious level of mind that something in you is somehow unworthy? That's not what the divine says. You are created in the image and after the likeness of that which is amazing and wonderful and unlimited, and you have this amazing possibility to develop and grow that. And that's what the leaven in the loaf is really about, is really holding on to this understanding that there's something more in you that can help you to grow into a greater experience of the possibilities of grace, of joy, of love, of health, of, yes, even material wealth and well-being. So one of the first things that we have to do, I'm going to give you 8 ideas that really we want to develop in our consciousness to really develop more of an energy and a consciousness of experiencing this abundant life that Jesus talks about. And the first one really is the understanding that there's only one source for our good. God, this divine creative power, is the only source of our good. And let me clarify that. It's the only source of our good. But there can be many, 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 many channels of good. There can be many streams which that good can come through. It can come through work. It can come through family and friends. It can come through providence, just winning the lottery for that matter. Or it can come in many different ways. But the moment that we believe that any of those ways, including our work, or the government, or someone in our life, is the source of our good, we're basically worshiping an idol. How many of you like worshiping idols? You don't have to answer that. We do it unconsciously sometimes. We think that something out here in the world is what is going to give us our good. So let's think about what kind of ways that we do that. We think that somehow that someone out here in the world holds our love for us. And if we're not experiencing love from them, and especially if we're not experiencing love from them in the way that we think that they're supposed to be giving that love to us, right? That somehow we're not loved. And so in a very real sense, we are making them the God of love. But the truth is, they can never keep you from knowing and experiencing the love that is true, that is the divine. Because that exists within you. And it's already there, and it's always there. And it never goes away. And it never shifts, and it never changes. You are loved in ways that you never dreamed you could be loved. But you won't know it until you also are willing to love you. And so people say, well, you're loving yourself, that's being selfish, that's being arrogant. No. It's learning how to love, allow love to be and express through you. It's letting that divine love express through you as love for yourself. And by learning to love that way, you overflow the abundance and the reservoir of love so that you then become a radiant light and a beam of that love to others in the world. And you're not out there trying to get the world to love you the way you think you're supposed to be loved, because ultimately, any love that you think that you don't have, it's because you haven't given it to you. This is the work that I've been really, really loving and benefiting from Matt Kahn, who basically says, whatever arises, love that. Great book. If you haven't gotten that book yet, I highly recommend it. Whatever arises, love that. And what he's referring to is not necessarily what arises out here, but when something happens out here, notice what arises within you and love that part of you that has the reaction, that has the fear, that has the anxiety, or that has the concern or the care or the worry. Because ultimately that's a part of you that's basically crying out for love. And the love that it's crying out for is the love that comes through you. So one, recognize that there's only one source. One source of love, one source of abundance, one source of prosperity. There's only one source of health. There's only one life in this universe, the life of the divine, and it's flowing through you. And allow yourself to visualize and see and know that. That's another one of the steps. So the next attitude of consciousness that really develops us an experience of abundance and prosperity is the attitude of gratitude. How many of you had a good Thanksgiving? How many of you are still practicing being grateful? Don't stop, because it opens the doors of heaven. It is absolutely one of the most important energies and consciousness feelings in our system that will attract to us even more things for us to experience gratitude for. It's a high vibrational energy, and it really helps us to really tune into what it is that we truly want and experience in our lives, and it helps us to shift our focus and our energy away from those things that we don't want and experience in our lives. One of the things that's important to recognize is that there's a powerful law, a spiritual law, that basically says where attention goes, energy flows. You guys know that one? Where attention goes. So whatever you're putting your attention on, you're actually feeding it. And I like to tell the story, how do you get an elephant out of your backyard? You stop serving it tea. Yeah, you guys, some of you have heard this before. Stop serving it tea. If you want to get an elephant out of your backyard, you stop serving it tea. You stop giving it your time, your energy, and your attention. And it'll eventually get mad and go away. Or get hungry and go away. Or get thirsty and go away. So how do you get something that is not really what you want in your life out of your life? You don't necessarily stop and throw a tantrum and push it out, or develop an energy and attitude of hatred or unforgiveness. We'll get to that part also. You begin to look for those things and those experiences that you can be grateful for, because the more you become grateful for those things, you draw those things into your energy and your vibration. You draw those into your life in ways that you perhaps had not noticed before because you were too busy trying to get rid of something out of your life. So gratitude. And then the next one, of course, is forgiveness. In order to really experience life from in abundance, there has to be a letting go of those things that hold us into the pains that we hold on to, the things that keep us stuck, the things that keep us from experiencing and being able to focus in the direction that we want to go. And so Charles Fillmore called this a sure remedy. There was a wonderful little pamphlet we used to put out in Unity called The Sure Remedy. And he said, basically, before you go to sleep at night, think about anyone that you may have offended during the day, or anyone who may have offended you, and forgive. And practice this understanding that ultimately everyone is either coming from what the Course in Miracles says. Course in Miracles says you're either coming from love or you're coming from fear. And so that person that you're holding that grievance with, ultimately at some form, in some way, was coming from a place of fear. And really crying out for love in ways that are, Marshall Rosenberg calls them catastrophic strategies for getting our needs met. Anybody know about catastrophic strategies for getting your needs met? We all have them. We all have little ways that we think are going to get our needs met. They don't work very well usually, but we keep doing them because, that's all we know how to do. Ultimately, they're a cry for love. And so part of our way of freeing ourselves from being stuck is to let go of those things that are holding us in that energy of resentment or anger or frustration or fear. The next step that we want to take, the next key to really developing a prosperity consciousness, is develop a consciousness that is a consciousness of giving, that we're sending out and giving out to the world. In Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7 to 11, it says, "Each one must do as he has made up his mind, not reluctant or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to provide with you every blessing in abundance, so that many always have enough of everything and may provide in abundance for every good work." And so developing an energy and a consciousness of giving, the universe, Spirit, God, the divine, in many ways is much like a giant mirror. And it sends back to us whatever we are radiating out into the universe. And so if we want to experience more of receiving, we have to create the energy through which we can receive. And the way we create that energy is we send it out. We first give. We create a consciousness in which we are choosing and looking for ways that we can share and give value out into the world. And by doing so, the universe says, "Oh, you want more giving, so let me give to you." And so there's a reciprocity. That's easier for me to say, right? There's a reciprocity in the universe. And when we shift our energy from looking out and trying to get what it is that we think we want out here in the world, to asking the question, well, how can that come through me into the world? How can I be someone who's able to share and to give in some way out into the world, and finding ways of doing that and holding that energy of making a choice and a decision to give of our time, our energy, our talent, to give of our love, to give of our compassion, to give of our grace out into the world, the universe will reflect back to us and share with us in ways that we had not perhaps even imagined before. So in order to really get into that flow of the creative process, we want to develop a consciousness that's, I remember that country song, "Looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces." Anybody know what I'm talking about? Well, we do that with not only love, but we do that with our health. We do that with our money. We do that with we're in an energy of trying to receive, or there's a difference between an energy of receiving and an energy of getting. Wouldn't you agree? The energy of receiving is really just allowing, and that's one of the things that we do want to develop within ourselves, is allowing ourselves to experience and receive the good in our life. And there's a difference between that and trying to get. And it's hard to describe the difference other than one is coming more from an allowing and the other one is coming from a fear of not having, a feeling of lack, a feeling of limitation. Wouldn't you agree? Does that make sense? Yeah. So we want to develop this energy of giving and begin to let go of this fear of not having. So another important and powerful way of working with and developing a consciousness of prosperity is we want to give not only out into the world, but I think first of all, and most significant in helping us develop a consciousness of abundance, is the practice of tithing. Now, the practice of tithing, to me, is much like the practice of meditation. There's a state of meditation, and then there's a practice of meditation. And the purpose of the practice of meditation is to help us move into a state of meditation in which we are connected with the divine, and we really experience that. So we do all those things to be able to kind of move us into that state of meditation. We get in a comfortable place, and sometimes we can we sit and do mudras, or we chant, or we do affirmations, or we read scripture, and we relax, and we breathe, and we focus on our breath, and those are all the practice of meditation. And the purpose of that is to move us into a state of consciousness. Right? Does that make sense? Well, tithing is very much the same way. The practice of tithing and being able to tithe and giving to our source in a consistent and practiced way helps us move into an understanding and an energy of an awareness that the divine is our source. And it helps us to move back into that awareness that there is an abundance. And it's amazing how things begin to open to us that we had not seen or experienced before when we're in that practice, so that we develop the consciousness of abundance. So tithing is another powerful, important way of tuning into the power of abundance in our lives. And then the other is to affirm and visualize. These minds are amazing things that we're creating all the time. We're constantly creating our circumstances and experiences in life. And using our words are to affirm what it is that we choose to experience in life is one of the most powerful ways of training our subconscious mind to allow ourselves to be in harmony and alignment with that which is always trying to bless us in some way, always trying to pour a greater good into and through us. But we kind of have to give some direction to that. The universe is always pouring good into and through us, but we don't always recognize it because it's not in the shape and form that we are able to comprehend or understand. But by holding a vision of what it is that we truly desire in life, we begin to recognize the good as it shows up. We begin to see it. It's already there, but it hasn't been put into a form that we've been able to see, perhaps. And one of the things that happens when we affirm and when we visualize is that we're actually creating a blueprint for the universe to use to say, oh, this is what they want. So here. And it doesn't change the amazing blessings that are already pouring to us. What it does is it allows it to show up in a form and a way that we can see it and recognize it and understand it. And so we want to affirm what it is that we want to experience in life as though it is already so right now. Jesus said, to him who has, more will be given. Some people say that seems unfair. But it's a matter of consciousness. So when you develop a consciousness of having, you're using that gift that you have been given that allows the universe to pour through you in such a way that you're actually shaping and forming the substance of the universe, the divine substance, to shape it in such a way that you can see and experience it as a blessing in your life. And so you develop an energy and a consciousness of having. You actually are telling the universe that this is what I want to experience more of. And so we affirm things not as, I hope I have this someday, of I am healthy and whole and well. I am prosperous. I am experiencing the blessings of loving relationships. I am consciousness. You're developing that having consciousness. And you're seeing it in your mind and in your heart as already done, already so. And you get that feeling and then you release it. And it's amazing how just one day things began to shift and you see that, oh, wow, it's here. I'm already experiencing it. It's true. So affirming, visualizing. Asking is another part of that. Jesus said, ask and you shall receive. And this kind of gets back to what I was saying earlier about the consciousness of allowing. Abraham Hicks really talks a lot about this, and I really like that understanding that what we're really doing is not... Mary Morrissey in her workshop recently said, you can't make it happen, but you can welcome it. I'm going to say it again because that's really valuable insight. You can't make it happen, but you can allow it. You can welcome it. You can welcome it into your consciousness. You can allow it to be a part of your energy and your vibration and your understanding, and you can allow it to be a part of what is really a blessing for you in life. And so that's really one of the things that we can do. The term asking really means to claim it, to say yes to it. And so part of our work is to learn how to let go of all of the little mind chatter that says, no, can't, not possible, and move into the energy and the consciousness of yes. I accept, I receive, I welcome. I welcome my good. I welcome my health. I welcome my strength. I welcome my abundance. I welcome love in my life. We have to be open to welcoming these things. And then the last one I want to share with you is the idea of the understanding that prosperity really is amplified when we come together with those of like energy and like consciousness to hold an image and an awareness of the possibilities of greater good in our lives. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 19 through 20, again I say to you, if two of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I, the I am, in the midst of them. And so there's a coming together of consciousness in which we are, there is a greater strength and courage and clarity and new, maybe different ideas that we have not seen or heard experienced before. There was a study that was done some years ago that showed they had had students take a particular test, and each one, and then they took all the scores of the test, and they figured out all the average of all the scores. And then they had the students all then take a test together. And a similar test, basically rearranged, and they found that the test results for the ones where they all worked on it together were exponentially higher than if they'd taken it individually. You see, there's a higher level of awareness and intelligence when we come together with people of like heart and mind that really opens us up to a greater possibility in our own lives. And so we want to attract to us and surround to us those who are going to help lift us into a greater possibility of who and what we choose and want to experience and express more in our lives. I believe that's one of the reasons why we come together here in unity, because there are people of like heart and mind who are here who will hold you into a higher awareness of your greater possibilities of good. It's one of the things I love and appreciate about unity, is that there are people here that really have an image and awareness of you who are holding you into the greater possibilities of the Christ that you are here to express. So those are 8 different areas that we develop within ourselves that help us to really tune into this understanding of this idea that when we walk in our lives, we walk a path of spirit, there are amazing things that really are streets of gold, but they're not necessarily material streets of gold. But I'm open to that possibility, I want you to know. I welcome that. They may not stay on the streets very long, but that's okay. But it means that there's a possibility when we follow a path like this that will take us into greater experiences of joy and life and abundance in all areas of our life if we're open to it. So as I tell everybody, these are my lessons. I just get to share them. This is what I've been really getting awarenesses about this week. And so I hope you'll take some time this week to really reflect on this and open yourself up to the greater possibilities of you. Have a great week. Let's move into our meditation time.
I do believe I will receive. I just have to know and then declare it to be so with an open mind and just a little bit of time. If it serves my highest good, then it will be mine. I do believe I will receive. I just have to know and then declare it to be so with an open mind and just a little bit of time. If it serves my highest good, then it will be mine. Oh, my highest good, it is mine.
So take a nice deep breath now. Just Just breathe into the heart space. We let an energy of gratitude come into our hearts for all the amazing blessings that we already experience here in life. We bring into our awareness anyone we've held a feeling of frustration or anger or resentment against, and we're willing to let go and forgive and even send love to that place within us where we maybe have trouble forgiving, letting go. We send forth our thoughts of peace. We open ourselves to our wisdom and guidance about how we might share even more value in our world. We give thanks for all that we have received, and we send forth blessings and commit to sending forth to our source the good that we choose to receive as well. And we affirm and see ourselves walking streets of gold, knowing that Spirit is paving the way before us with rich blessings. We ask in a spirit of allowing and receiving for whatever grace, whatever good, whatever blessing we wish to experience more of, and we look for ways that we can also then share and give of those things that we truly want to have more of in life. And right now we attract and draw to us those who we will mastermind with, that we will hold a vision for them and welcome the vision that they hold for a higher good for us as well. And we give thanks that we expand our awareness of the one presence and the one power, that one creative source working through us to heal, to bless, to transform not only our lives, but our world. Take a nice deep breath now. Feel an energy of well-being, of having, of welcoming, of receiving, and also an experience of sending forth, being of service to sharing our light, our love, our power, our strength if needed, our abundance. And just affirm and know, I am a blessing and I am blessed. Just affirm that silently to yourself. I am a blessing and I am blessed. I am a blessing and I am blessed. Breathe that in now. Let yourself give thanks for that feeling and that knowing of the greater possibilities of good in all areas of life. And so it is. Take a nice deep breath. Let your awareness be in this room, this time and place. Let yourself give thanks for all the good that is already pouring in and through you, and all the good that is already on its way. Take another nice deep breath. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Be present here and now. And so it is. Thank you, God. We at Unity in the Heart of Austin are committed to inspiring people to awaken to their unique divine nature through spiritual teachings, through heart-to-heart connections, through prayer, and through sacred service. And we provide tools, spiritual tools, that allow you to live your best possible life. I'm Reverend Tony Roebuck, minister at Unity in the Heart of Austin, and I truly hope that you are inspired by and that you are transformed by, you enjoy this week's spiritual message. And if you would like to leave a donation, a tithe, to help the work of this ministry in supporting you and others like you, then we are truly grateful for your generosity and for helping to make the world a better place. Because we know that life is meant to be good.